Hello, my name is Nora, and I'm 25 years old. 4 years ago, I married Elijah, an incredibly amazing individual who brings joy and laughter into every day of my life. His kindness and empathy are boundless, making every moment with him feel special. Unfortunately, this warmth and affection don't extend to his mother, Madison, my mother-in-law, who seems to have taken an immediate dislike to me from the very beginning. It's perplexing because Madison has always been protective of Elijah, her beloved son, which I guess is natural. However, it feels like she often goes too far in her actions. Madison has a talent for subtly undermining others in ways that might look innocent on the surface, but are, in reality, meant to provoke and upset, leaving you looking like the bad guy. It's a behavior pattern I'm sure many can relate to. Unfortunately for me, this person is my mother-in-law. My upbringing taught me to speak up against such behavior, a trait that Elijah found appealing in me. Our differing personalities somehow drew us closer, a classic case of opposites attract. Having a background in psychology, I can see through Madison's actions and understand her motives, though it doesn't make them any less challenging to deal with. Our strong personalities clash, evident from our first encounter when she criticized my eating habits in front of everyone, leaving me and the rest of the family in shock. Despite Elijah's defense and Madison's weak justification of concern for my health, I remained calm, not wanting to escalate the situation. Over time, these uncomfortable incidents became more frequent and intense, although I managed to form strong bonds with the rest of Elijah's family and friends. Even Kodak, Elijah's childhood buddy, welcomed me warmly. Yet Madison's attitude remained cold and dismissive, even trying to overshadow me on my wedding day with petty comments. Despite Madison's attempts to unsettle me, the love and acceptance from the rest of Elijah's family have been a great source of comfort. I've learned to navigate these challenges, keeping the peace while standing firm. Madison's behavior has become a predictable part of family gatherings, but I choose to focus on the positive relationships I've built within the family. What Madison was trying to say, albeit clumsily, was that she believed I had the potential to enhance my appearance significantly. She mentioned seeing a lot of herself in me, acknowledging me as a bright and capable young woman, albeit suggesting I could look more appealing for my age. She awkwardly complimented my beauty, but in a manner that felt backhanded. My father-in-law managed to mitigate her harsh behavior that day, yet the sting and resentment lingered within me. Going against my very essence, I struggled to stay quiet and passive. My usually lively spirit began to wane under the weight of her constant attempts to belittle me. Fast forward 4 years to a recent chapter in our ongoing saga. We found ourselves at Elijah's childhood home, invited over for dinner on a Sunday night by my mother-in-law. This invitation, surprisingly inclusive of Waylon, hinted at something important, arousing my suspicions which were soon to be validated, revealing a more deliberate motive behind the dinner. As the evening progressed, Madison captured everyone's attention to announce something significant. With a paper in hand, she declared her birthday plans to travel to Bali, eliciting excitement from all present. The joyous announcement quickly soured for me when, upon my expressed enthusiasm, Madison bluntly stated that I was not included in the plans. She admitted to having canceled my ticket to avoid extra fees, a revelation that left me stunned and questioning her animosity towards me. The room plunged into chaos as protests erupted. Waylon and I sat in stunned silence amidst the heated exchange until Madison felt compelled to justify her actions. She explained, rather bluntly, her desire to spend her forthcoming years with those she truly valued, excluding me from this circle. Madison's harsh declaration, implying I wasn't considered part of the family, was both shocking and hurtful, revealing the depth of her rejection. This encounter was a stark reminder of the challenges I faced within this family dynamic, marked by exclusion and unspoken tensions. Madison's reasoning for excluding me from the family trip to Bali was based on the fact that I am not related by blood. Yet, this argument fell flat when considering Waylon, who is also not related by blood, but is warmly embraced as family. It's clear that family is not just about blood relations, it's about the bonds we form. Waylon has always been considered part of the family, a sweet baby angel, according to Madison. But when it comes to me, despite being married to Elijah, she hesitates to accept me, claiming discomfort with my presence on the trip. It was a painful reminder of my outsider status in her eyes, despite the love and commitment that bind me and Elijah. In that moment, standing up for myself became unavoidable. My firm refusal to accept her decision echoed loudly, capturing the room's attention and momentarily wiping the smugness off Madison's face. For years, I endured her coldness and attempts to undermine me, questioning whether she thought her actions were invisible to us. Her demand for respect in her home was met with my resolve to speak my truth before departing. Addressing Elijah, I expressed my unwavering love for him and my attempts to endure the hostility for the sake of our relationship. However, the realization that Madison would never accept me as part of the family was now undeniable. I encouraged Elijah to join the family trip despite everything, emphasizing the importance of family ties, including the complex relationship with his mother. Turning to Madison, I confronted her with the reality that her attempts to exclude me would not change the fact that I loved her son and was here to stay. Her obsession with trying to push me away was baffling, especially when all I had shown was kindness and patience. My declaration that I was not going anywhere, even if she did not want me in Bali or as part of the family, was a clear stance against her exclusionary behavior. Madison's threat in response to my words only underscored her fixation on driving a wedge between us. But my resolve was clear. I had reached my limit. If Madison chose not to see me as part of the family, so be it. My commitment to Elijah and our bond was unshakable, and no amount of resistance from Madison could change that. In that moment, I made it clear that my presence and support would always be there for Elijah, Julian, and even Waylon, but not for Madison. My words seemed to have finally taken effect as she stood there, mouth open, unable to find a rebuttal. With a sense of closure, I said goodbye to the family, shared a tender moment with Elijah, and assured him of my well-being despite his offer to drive me home. As I made my way to retrieve my forgotten purse from the kitchen, I encountered Madison once more. Her hostility was palpable as she demanded I leave quickly. Her inability to see me off with even a shred of decency was the final affirmation of her feelings towards me. Collecting my purse, I noticed a piece of paper beside it. Curiosity piqued. I discovered it was a letter from Madison to Waylon, expressing deep affection and considering him akin to a son. The letter revealed unexpected sentiments, hinting at a preference for Waylon over her own son, Elijah. This discovery was shocking, and as I delved deeper, the letter unfolded emotions and confessions that seemed almost too private and profound for an accidental find. Despite the initial invasion of privacy, the letter shed light on complexities within Madison that I hadn't anticipated. After reading the letter in full, I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, considering how best to address this sensitive information. The impact of this letter not only on me, but potentially on the entire family was significant. Armed with this newfound insight, I returned to the dining room, met by a few concerned glances. Julian, sensing the tension and the distress caused by Madison's actions towards me, expressed his apologies for the unwelcome treatment I had endured. His words were a reminder of the family members who did see and appreciate my presence, despite Madison's efforts to marginalize me. The revelation within the letter, while initially unintended for my eyes, offered a pivotal moment for reflection and possibly understanding. It underscored the complex dynamics at play within this family, revealing hidden layers of emotion and allegiance that went beyond the surface conflicts. This moment was not just about confrontation, but about uncovering the deeper, more painful truths that lay buried under years of familial tension. As the conversation unfolded, Julian kindly offered to bring me along to Bali, suggesting that Madison's behavior was a result of her going through a tough time. He assured me he would talk to her, hopeful to amend the situation. Despite his good intentions, I reassured him that I was managing fine, but I also hinted at having come across some significant information that needed to be shared, particularly with Elijah and Waylon. Elijah looked worried, possibly fearing the stress had pushed me to consider leaving. He always sympathized with me over his mother's actions, amazed by my patience. With Madison absent, I was told she had retreated to deal with a headache and would not join us for a while. Her absence was frustrating, especially since the news I had to share was significant and ideally shared with her present. However, prompted by the family's encouragement and Elijah's visible anxiety, I decided to proceed. I explained that while preparing to leave earlier, I had found a letter in the kitchen. Holding the paper that had caught my attention, I began to read Madison's words to the room. The letter was addressed to Waylon, expressing her deep affection for him, likening him to a son, and acknowledging the love and care he had shown her over the years. The tone of the letter suggested a closeness to Waylon that seemed to surpass even her relationship with her own son, Elijah. This revelation, shared in Madison's absence, was not just about the surprise of her feelings for Waylon, but also hinted at a complex web of emotions and relationships within the family. The letter's contents, revealed to the family, offered a glimpse into Madison's heart, showcasing her affection for Waylon and perhaps unveiling underlying tensions that had affected her behavior towards me and her own son. This moment was a turning point, shedding light on the dynamics at play, and setting the stage for potential healing and understanding within the family. Discovering Madison's letter in the kitchen, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of sorrow for the revelations within. Madison expressed feeling distant from Elijah, believing their once strong bond had faded, attributing much of this estrangement to my presence in their lives. She accused me of diverting Elijah's affections away from her, leading her to a painful decision. Madison planned to revise her will, leaving everything to Waylon instead of Elijah, convinced that I had poisoned her relationship with her son. Her words conveyed a mixture of bitterness and resolve, hoping Waylon would understand her decision, despite acknowledging it might disappoint him due to his brotherly love for Elijah. Upon sharing the contents of the letter with the family, the room was engulfed in a storm of emotions. Julian struggled to hold back tears, while Waylon was visibly shocked. Elijah, however, was the epitome of outrage, incredulous at his mother's words and her decision to disinherit him out of spite for me. His frustration was palpable, and it was clear that Madison's actions and her toxic behavior had reached a breaking point for everyone involved. After the initial shock, an idea began to form, a way to address the situation head-on. As the week progressed and the day of the ballet trip arrived, Madison discovered a letter from Julian by her bedside. The letter suggested she take her time in the morning, assuring her that everything was taken care of and instructing her to meet the family at the airport. In a rush, Madison prepared herself and hurried to the airport, only to find herself unable to locate or contact anyone from the family. This moment of confusion and solitude was not just a consequence of her actions reflected in the letter, but also a pivotal point that might prompt Madison to reflect on the impact of her behavior on those she loves. The family's response to her letter and the orchestrated effort to address the situation hinted at a collective desire for change, signaling a potential turning point in the dynamics within the family. This scenario left Madison with a profound opportunity to reconsider her actions and the importance of mending the fractures within her family, inspired by the love and patience that had been extended to her, despite the challenges. After a lengthy 14-hour journey, Madison arrived in Bali, full of anticipation to join her family and kick off the celebrations. Upon landing, she immediately contacted Julian, perplexed by the silence and absence of her family. Julian's response was unexpected and chilling. They were not in Bali but had chosen to stay in Florida, a decision influenced by revelations Nora had shared. Madison was taken aback, unable to comprehend the turn of events. The confrontation escalated as Julian disclosed they were aware of Madison's intentions to disinherit Elijah, a secret uncovered through a letter Madison never intended for the family to see. Madison's attempts to deny and deflect only worsened the situation, as it was evident everyone knew the truth. The family's disappointment and disapproval were clear, marking a significant rift caused by Madison's actions and her evident disdain for Nora. Julian's stern rebuke left Madison grappling with the reality of spending her birthday alone in Bali, a consequence of her own making. The call ended with Madison's realization of her isolation, a moment for her to reflect on the impact of her behavior. Back in Florida, the tension gave way to relief and eventually laughter among the family. The absurdity of the situation, coupled with Madison's dramatic discovery that her plans had unraveled, sparked a moment of levity. It was a laughter born from the release of pent-up frustrations, and the ironic twist of Madison being the architect of her own solitude. This turn of events served as a poignant lesson for Madison, emphasizing the value of family unity and the destructive potential of harboring negativity. For the family in Florida, it was a moment to bond, laugh, and appreciate the strength of their relationships, unmarred by the discord Madison had attempted to sow. For the first time in what felt like ages, Madison experienced a genuine sense of embarrassment. Left to her own devices on a vacation she had envisioned sharing with her family, she found herself in solitude, her calls to Julian filled with pleas for company, or at least a reconsideration of the costly reservation she had made. Julian, however, remained firm in his stance, indicating that significant changes and new boundaries would be necessary for their marriage to continue once she returned. Madison's reaction to this situation was notably different from her typical behavior. She became apologetic and desperate. He made it clear to his mother that a dramatic shift in her attitude was non-negotiable if she wished to maintain a relationship with him, warning that any future disrespect would lead him to sever ties permanently. Waylon, too, recognized the need to alter his approach, realizing that his previous leniency had only facilitated Madison's harmful actions. As a result, Madison not only faced the loneliness of her trip, but also the realization that she was on the verge of losing the most important people in her life. Her relationships with each of them had become strained, and it was up to her to initiate the necessary changes for reconciliation. In the midst of this, I communicated to Madison the need for space to consider whether forgiveness was possible on my part, given everything that had transpired. Her response, filled with apologies and requests for me to intervene on her behalf with the men in her life, was met with my refusal. I made it clear that the consequences she was facing were the result of her own actions, and it was her responsibility to rectify the situation. Madison's journey towards mending the fractured relationship she had caused is ongoing. It's a path filled with challenges, requiring her to reflect on her actions and genuinely strive for improvement. The hope is that through this difficult process, Madison will learn valuable lessons about respect, empathy, and the importance of nurturing the bonds that truly matter.